Hi everyone, and welcome to our video tutorial for this candy cane cat scarf that you can see Melba wearing here. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. Please like, share and subscribe, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks, bye. Okay, so to make this candy cane cat scarf, you'll need some yarn in two colours. And since I'm filming this in December and I'm calling it a candy cane scarf, I'm using festive colours. So I've got this forest green with a metallic thread, and I've got this cream. And both about a 5-weight acrylic wool blends. You'll need a crochet hook, and I'm going just a little bit smaller than what my yarn recommends, to 4.5 millimetres. You need a darning needle to weave in your ends and also sew on your pom-poms, optional pom-poms. Some scissors. I've got these nice sharp ones for making pom-poms. You'll need some method to make pom-poms. So I'm using this clover maker. It's the second, if I'm correct, it's the second to smallest that they have available. Makes, small pom-poms. So, whatever method you've got for making a pom-pom, go ahead. I'm not going to actually do that on camera. I'll just make my pom-poms off camera, and you'll do the same. Now, the pom-poms are just optional. You don't have to add that to this scarf. And you could add other options for finishing off your scarf. You could add a little fringe. You could add some tassels. I'm going to add pom-poms. And then you'll need a tape measure just to get a general idea of your cat's neck circumference. This scarf is easy to fit. It doesn't have to be, exact sizing. So as long as you've got a general idea. And I'll include in the description box below a guide to standard cat sizes. Okay, so to make this scarf, and you can see one I've made previously here in red and cream, you'll need to know how to slip knot onto your hook, how to create a chain, how to single crochet, and then from there, it's just really basic crochet techniques. From there, you'll just be weaving in ends and sewing on your pom-poms or whatever you're putting at the bottom of your scarf. So it is really, really simple. So basically what we'll be doing is we'll be making 2 strands. So we'll be making one in the cream and one in our other color. For me, it'll be green. And then we're going to just weave them all together, and we get this effect here. So it's super cute, super simple, way more simple than it looks, I think. But, you get this beautiful effect. So, yeah, let's get started. Okay, so take your first colour, doesn't matter which one, and make a slip knot onto your hook. And then you're going to chain to the length that you need. Now this is a little bit arbitrary, and it's a little bit tricky to know exactly how many chains you'll need, and it will depend on your hook size and your yarn. Now for this one, I chained 100 for each of the colours, and actually that's a little bit long. So I'm going to go less than that this time. I'm going to go perhaps to about 75 chains for each colour. Okay, so that's with my yarn and my hook size. So I've done how many there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'll go ahead and you'll chain the amount that you need. And I can't give you an exact amount, I'm afraid. It's a little bit hard to predict. And also, it won't reflect the exact length that you get with your scarf, because it's going to shrink as we do this spiral. As we curl it into a spiral. So it will shrink. But you'll have to work out how long you need your chain to be. And like I said, I'm going to go for about 75 chains. The 100 was a little bit long. It's cute, but it's not super practical because it's a little bit long. But so I'll go ahead and do that, and you do the same, and I'll see you shortly. Okay, so I've got my 75 chains there, and just as a general rule, your chain will shrink as you work the stitches into it. Your chain will shrink anywhere from about 1/4 to 1/3, depending on your crochet technique. Okay, so kind of use that as a bit of a guide. So I've got my 75 chains. Let me just give you an idea actually how long it is. It's about 50 centimeters long. Okay, and that's going to shrink if I'm working on about 1/4 to 1/3 shrinking, so it's going to 12 centimeters. Let's say 12 to 15 centimeters it will shrink, so I'll end up with about 35 centimeters. And compare that to my last one. Yeah, that's going to be that's going to be much better for sizing. Okay, so yeah, so I'm happy with that. Now you're just going to place, so skip that first chain, and you're going to place a single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and then you're going to place 2 more, 1 and 2, so all in that same chain, 3 single crochets, and that's basically all you're going to do. 3 single crochets in each chain, and what you'll see starting to happen is it will just naturally curl up into a spiral like this. Okay, so you can already see that starting to spiral, and you'll do that all the way along, just 3 single crochets in each stitch until you reach the end of your chain. Now the option here is, it depends on the yarn that you're using and how wide you want this to be. So for me, for my yarn, it's quite a thick and chunky yarn, so I get the you know, the width of the scarf that I want just with single crochets. But you have the option, if you're using a much finer yarn and you want your scarf to be a bit thicker, you know, this part here to be a little bit wider, then you've got the option to either use half double crochets or double crochets. You know, technically you could use any stitch here, but if you want this part here to be a little bit wider, so you know, from your chain to the edge, if you want that to be a little bit wider, use a different stitch. You know, go for a half double crochet or a double crochet, and you can definitely play around with those options. But with my yarn, the single crochet is definitely thick enough, and especially when I consider that I'm going to be, you know, putting the 2 strands together. So go ahead and finish off this first strand, 3 single crochets in each chain, and you can just tie off at the end, and then you know, create your second strand exactly the same way, just in your second color. So I'll meet you once I've done that. I'll finish off this strand, I'll make my second strand in my green, and we'll meet each other back then. Now if your spiral is doing this sort of odd curls, don't worry about it, just go back at the end and you'll work your spiral. So I've done this little bit here, so you can see that I've just curled it into its own spiral, and eventually, you know, you can do that at the end, or just do it as you go like I've done there. But don't worry if you're getting this sort of effect where it's a bit messy. It's totally normal. So as I said, once you get to the end, you'll just tie off here, so yarn over, oops, and pull through. And then you don't need to leave a particularly long tail, just snip off your end, and that's my first one done. So I'm going to go ahead and do my second, and I'll see you shortly. Okay, so I've got my 2 strands there, and what I've done is I've woven in one of my tails. So I've got one tail on the green, and I am going to just weave in one of my tails on the white, just to show you how to do that. So what I've done is I've actually just tied a little simple knot in between those 2 tails, and then I'm going to just weave one in. So weave one in at each end. Okay, so what you do there is you just weave it into preferably the back, so just weaving one of those ends down and through, and it's a little bit short, this one tail end, so I'm just going to put my needle in first. But just as long as you get that woven down, you know, you can go backwards and forwards a couple of times if you want to, just to make sure it's well secure. So I'll just snip off that excess. So you weave in one of each of the tail ends for each colour. So I've got one green left and I've got one white tail left. So what you're going to do here is you're going to take your strands and make sure the tails are at the opposite ends to each other. Okay, so I've got my white tail here, my green tail at this end, and then you're just going to join your 2 spirals together. Well, not really joining them, you're just intertwining them. So you make sure that all of your coils are in the same way, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to intertwine them hang on, is that right? No, that's not right. So you're just going to make sure that you intertwine them. So once you get, so that one actually needs to come that way. So you just need to make sure that you're getting them the right, you know, they're matching each other. Okay, so it's probably better if I just move this white one. There we go. So go ahead and finish that off. Just wrap them around each other like so until you get to the end. And you might need to kind of just, you know, sort of shimmy them down as you go. But so look how simple and awesome that is. Just 2 spiral strands, and then you're just weaving them in together like this. So go ahead and finish off. I'll finish off mine off camera, and I'll see you shortly. Okay, when you get down to the bottom, if one looks longer than the other, which they shouldn't be, if you've used similar yarn and you've used the same hook size, what you might, like I said before, you might just need to, so make sure these 2 are held at the end and just curl them down a little bit, and especially the one that's not quite to the same length. But there we go. My white seems like it's a bit shorter, but I know it's not. So I'm just going to just pull on the white gently to get that down a little bit further. And there we go, it's perfect. So they meet up perfectly there. Okay, so why we've left one tail end at each end is so we can just secure these together. So take one of your tail ends and thread your needle, and so what we're going to do is we're just going to, so we're going to try and work underneath these 2. Okay, so that's the 2 ends there, and so you want to just come underneath a loop that's on the bottom of that white strand, for me white, and in a strand that's on the bottom of the green. Okay, so you want to try and do this in a way that it's kind of hidden. So I'm just going to do again, I'm going to take a loop on the inside there of the white, and then a loop of the green underneath. Let's do that one. So you want to, yeah, you want to try and disguise your sewing as best you can. See, so you can see it just slightly there, but if you just kind of disguise it the best you can. So you just want to secure these 2 ends together just so they don't unravel. Not that they easily will, but just so that, you know, they're secured in there. So do, I don't know, 2 or 3 sort of little ends. And then I'm going to, I'll bring my white back up into the white area. See, so you can, you know, you can't really see where I've sewn there. So I brought that back up into the white area, and then I'm just going to weave the rest of this tail into the white. My needle's not very sharp, but it's got a big eye, so it's a little bit tricky to get in there. So I'm just going to weave up into this white area. And I'll do the green one off camera. So I'll do the opposite end off camera. So you go ahead and do both of these ends. Let's just bring that up a little bit further. And then I might just double back a little bit on this one, just to make sure it's nice and secure in there. And actually, let's finish underneath. Let's pull that through and snip off your excess. And you know, you can just press any little bits in there. So that's the first one done. And then you'll go ahead and you'll do this other side using your equivalent of the green. So I'll do that off camera and I'll see you shortly. Okay, so both of those ends are secured there. Now you'll sew on your pom-pom or whatever you're using to finish this off. So let's do one of those on camera together. So I'm just threading my needle with the bottom end of my pom-pom, and I'm just going to sew up through the center of the spiral. Okay, so I'm just bringing my needle up through the center, so I'll bring it a decent length in there, and then oops, so hopefully you've left, I've just come up through the side there, so let's just pull that one out. So hopefully you've left enough tail that you can do this. I should have mentioned that earlier, that with your pom-poms to leave a long tail. So you can sew this on nice and securely. And then you want to come back down, but don't obviously go exactly where you've come. You just want to go back down and through. And come up through your pom-pom so it's nice and secure on there. So we're doing this just with one tail to start with, and pull it up through the top, and then we'll do it the same with the second one as well. So it's nice, each pom-pom is nice and secure. So down through the center, coming out a little way, and then just make sure you're not, you're not misshaping your scarf. And then come back down, not exactly where you came up, but back down and then through your pom-pom once again. Okay, and then you can just even out your coil, and then you'll just cut those ends as if they're part of the pom-pom. Okay, so there's your pom-pom on the end, one of them anyway. So go ahead and do your second pom-pom, and we'll finish off together. Okay, so once your pom-poms are sewed on there you have it, your candy cane cat scarf. So I've done one obviously quite a bit longer, the red, and a shorter one in green. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I just love how this comes out. I think it's a really simple but effective technique. So please send along your photos to catventurers.community@gmail.com, or you can tag us on social media at catventurous.crochet. I'd love to see photos of your cat wearing his or her scarf. So yeah, I would, I'd really appreciate if you could take the time to do that. So yeah, thanks very much for being here. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks very much. Bye. Another? Another? Good girl. Thank you.